Hey, what's going on? It's Sean. So a couple weeks ago, I made a video talking about how I recently switched from my Fujifilm X-S10 and all of my Fujifilm lenses over to the Panasonic Lumix S5. It's been a couple weeks now that I've been using it full-time professionally, and I figured I would put together a video talking about some of my favorite features within the Lumix S5. So let's dive in. Panasonic cameras have a long history of building cameras dedicated to video production. Several years ago, I was using a Panasonic GH4, actually two of them, and I used them for all of my page shoots for quite a while until the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K came out, which is what I'm using to record this video now. I have found that sometimes I don't need the robustness of the Pocket 4K, and sometimes I need something just a little bit lighter and easier to use in a variety of situations. So that's what really drove me to upgrade to the Lumix S5. I figured I would put together 5 features from the Lumix S5 that have really been kind of game changers, putting it in my bag and using it from the day to day. One of the things that I found most exciting about the S5 is the option to use a base/range for your zebras. So previously I had used zebras and set them to like 95% just to make sure that I wasn't just blowing out all of the highlights. But there are situations where it's more important that the subject in the frame is the proper exposure, especially on run and gun setups when I don't have a ton of time to use maybe an external monitor, to use false color, and to check those kinds of things. So this option has really been paramount to ensuring that I get the proper exposure for talent and I'm able to meet those deliverables on the schedule of the client, because that's ultimately who we're trying to please with this stuff. The next feature works hand in hand with the base range, and that's the Luminance spot meter. I've actually found this to be fantastic, and I actually found it through a Lumix tutorial video talking about the S5. And the thing that's really kind of set this apart for me is being able to set the base/range zebras to 40% and then using the Luminance spot meter and just kind of moving it up so that it's either in the extreme highlights or in the extreme shadows, and make sure that I'm not clipping on either of those places. The third thing that I love, and I know is not, something dedicated to Lumix cameras, but that's the option to have the exposure compensation, the white balance, and the ISO in a very dedicated and easy to reach place. But more than that, it's how Lumix gives you the option to adjust how these things work. So right now I have it set where I have to hold the button and then use the scroll wheel to adjust my ISO or my white balance. And I found that that works really well when I'm in the field and I'm running and I don't want to accidentally hit the white balance. The next thing I know, I'm running from being in a daylight white balance or a custom set white balance to like underwater or something, and everything is completely the wrong color. So this has been fantastic. It's given me a great option to push that button and then turn it and then let go of the button, and I know things are going to stay the way I set them. I have found that it gets kind of frustrating on occasion when I put the camera on a gimbal, because then I'm putting pressure on the gimbal as I'm trying to adjust those settings, and sometimes that can get a little frustrating, but it's definitely not the end of the world, and I definitely prefer the way this is set up on this camera. Okay, the fourth thing on this list I'm sure plenty of people are going to think is stupid, and that's how Lumix Panasonic here have implemented the on-off switch for this camera. So one of the things that always drove me crazy about my Fujifilm and even on my Leica is that the on-off switch is attached to the shutter button, and as I pull it out of the camera, I'll accidentally flip that and turn on the camera too early, or put it in my bag and turn on the camera on accident. So one of the things that works really well now is that I know this switch is offset from there, so if I'm grabbing the camera by its grip, I'm not going to accidentally press on the on-off switch and turn it on or off accidentally, which has saved me so many times in the field. The button on here is also very tactile and responsive, and I know when it flips that it is indeed on or off, and I absolutely love that. Okay, and last but not least, and I'm sure there are plenty of other cameras that have this. Actually, I know there are plenty of cameras that have this, but that's the LUT Preview that's built into the Panasonic S5. I really love how I'm able to set just the up button on the D-pad, and I can turn on and off the LUT Preview. It really gives me a great option to check quickly whether or not things are looking the way I think they should look. Basically, I run around most of the time with a Rec 709 LUT on there just to make sure that things look okay. But I have added recently a false color LUT, which gives me a lot of flexibility when I'm in the field. The only thing that I wish that Panasonic would add to this, and maybe it's a feature and I just don't know about it, is the option to continue to cycle through those LUTs that are preloaded into the camera without actually opening up the menu. So I'd like to be able to press the up button a couple times and it may go on, off, but also cycle through the different LUTs that I have programmed into the camera. And that would be amazing because then I could check the false color, but I could also move over to the actual Rec 709 LUT and check what the picture actually looks like. And it would be an incredible way to make this camera just a little more flexible. So if you're interested in following along with some of the photos or the videos that I'm doing from the day-to-day, you can check me out on social media at Sean P. Bruce, or you can check me out on my website and even sign up for my newsletter at seanpbruce.com. Thanks so much for watching.